So see what you're doing right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get to where you're a little bit quicker on that part. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it done. We're on a chapter with slow motion analysis. Slow motion analysis, watching players' videos, swings in slow motion is a widely thing that's being used these days. In my opinion, I think the use of slow motion is being used improperly most of the time. What we just watched with Marcus a second ago was a swing in slow motion, trying to analyze what he was doing right and what he was doing wrong. We have to make sure when we're doing this, there's a lot of positives to it, but there are a lot of negatives to it too as well. One of the negatives being just hitting off a tee. I see a lot of coaches these days will analyze players off a tee, and a lot of times the tee hacks don't really resemble what's going to happen in a game. So the first thing we need to realize is we have to be able to get game-like footage as far as swing is concerned to be able to give him true analysis on what's being done right and what's being done wrong. What I'm going to do here in a second is to basically give you a lot of fallacies that are being taught in slow motion analysis today and be able to show you those, to be able to recognize what they are so that you aren't getting caught up in the same trap of being able to teach what's being taught wrong, and hopefully be able to give you the important feedback on what really needs to be happening when analyzing swings in slow motion. One of the first things that gets taught by the overuse of slow motion is what's called elbow slot. The elbow slot is something, Marcus is going to demonstrate for me. Elbow slot is something that's a fad these days. I hope it's just a fad because what it's doing to hitters is not helping them out at all. If you were to watch a swing in slow motion, the elbow actually slots in towards the body. It does happen. It is part of the swing. But what I'm recognizing more and more as I'm teaching hitters to do this is the hitters are so focused on what the elbow is doing that their hands lag, their bat lags, and it never actually catches up to the ball. So one of the things, I call it the slow motion deke, is basically it does happen, but we do not need to teach hitters elbow slot because it doesn't allow them to attack the ball with their hands. They're so focused on what their elbow is doing that their hands will always be late. So the elbow slot is hopefully it's going to be gone here in a while, but it's a fad that's being taught right now that is definitely not helping, even though you do see it in slow motion. Another common misconception when it comes to the use of slow motion is this whole hips before hands theory. I'm telling you right now, the hips do rotate before the hands. If you were to watch a slow motion swing, you'll see the hips slightly start before the hands and the hands are coming with it. However, when we teach hitting, when we're dealing with the hitter's mentality in his head, we can't focus on the hips before the hands because their hands always drag and get late. Always as a hitter, they need to focus on working the hips and the hands together at the same time. So the whole hips before the hands thing that's seen in slow motion it is correct, but because the overanalyzation of slow motion, it causes the hitter to get really slow and long to the ball. So we always need to be focused on working the hips and the hands together at the same time, maximizing that bat speed and velocity to the pitch. Bat lag is the next thing that you see in slow motion that should never be taught. I agree 100% that the bat does lag behind the ball when you actually swing the bat. It has to happen to arrive on the same plane as the pitch. However, when kids focus on this with their bat lagging, they're always going to focus on having their bat go backwards before they go forwards, and they'll always be late to the ball. So again, your bat lag should happen as your hands are going forward, and the bat will lag behind your hands and catch up to the ball this way. However, when a hitter, especially the younger hitters, think about bat lag, they always get long to the ball. If I'm dealing with Marcus or somebody that's in college, I can explain bat lag to somebody and they probably understand it. But when we teach hitters to lag their bat to the ball, it's probably one of the dumbest things you can ever coach just because it teaches them to be long and slow to the ball. And nothing should ever be long and slow to the ball. It should always be short, quick, and explosive. So bat lag is something that happens, but we shouldn't teach it because it always creates problems with the swing. The next thing we're going to talk about regarding slow motion misconceptions is what's called the locked front arm. There's actually people that actually teach this right now, which I don't understand. If you were to slow motion analyze Marcus swinging, right before he starts his swing, his arm's going to slightly lock up as it goes forward. This only happens in slow motion. If we were to teach players to lock up their front arm, their hands are always going to get long to the ball, usually cast out and get around it, probably getting jammed up. If you watch big leaguers do it, a lot of them do it. They'll lock up their front arm before they go, but it's never something we should ever teach because it'll always create that length in their swing to get long right into there. So you'll see this a lot. A lot of big leaguers will do it, but it's something we should never teach. A locked front arm will not help in hitting. Quit teaching it. The next thing we're going to talk about is the swing path. It's pretty funny because there's two opposite kind of ends of the spectrum when it comes to the swing path being taught. The first swing path is this choppy motion where people are taught to chop down at the ball. And then the second one is kind of the totally opposite where it's a dipping motion where they drop back and they kind of swing uphill to the ball. I'm going to tell you right now that the dipping kind of swinging uphill most resembles a big league swing. I don't even know where this chopping path comes from, honestly. It's a whole linear approach to it. Nobody hits like that. So in slow motion, you'll never even see that from any pitch or any player on any pitch. You might see it on a high pitch because they might have to chop on it a little bit, but the whole idea behind the swing path misconceptions is this whole rotational style of kind of dropping and letting your hands come up through the ball. It's the whole concept of arriving on time and on plane. Again, as a hitter gets ready to hit, as they come to the ball, their hands are going to attack, and their barrel head is naturally going to level out behind the ball. So the swing path actually has to get to that arriving on time and on plane action, which is going to be slightly uphill. So for the differences in the swing path that are being taught, I don't understand why there's such a big difference, but it's definitely never chopping, and it's got to be something that we're careful with to not let the hitter swing basically down and then up. It's kind of an uppercut approach. We always have to attack the ball with the hands and let the barrel head level out behind the ball. So the swing path misconceptions are due to the overanalyzation of using slow motion too as well. My hope is that by teaching you these swing flaws that might happen in slow motion, we'll be able to give you a better understanding of what not to teach. Just because it's done in slow motion doesn't mean it's something that we have to teach kids. What we have to be careful with when we're doing slow motion swing analysis is to understand the outside influences that could cause those things to happen. Whether the pitch is a curveball, maybe it's a changeup, maybe it's a slower pitcher versus a faster pitcher. There's always something that could cause something to happen that you see in slow motion. You can see a hitter getting out on their front side a little bit, lunging out a little bit. Could be because they didn't get good pitch recognition. So let's not be so quick to just overanalyze. Let's not compare them to big leaguers. You know, a little kid that's 12 years old that has zero power whatsoever should not have a swing like Pujols. We got to be able to give them what they truly need. And when we're doing slow motion analysis, let's not clone them into being just like the big leaguers. On the opposite end, slow motion analysis is very helpful for those people that are visual learners and that can see themselves on video and be able to fix those specific problems. But remember from chapter 2, we got to identify the true problem and not just transform them into looking like a big leaguer. Use slow motion analysis correctly, and I promise it will help. Use it incorrectly, and we're defeating the purpose of helping them.